exoticals, I just wanted to say that colorist Chris Brown is still viral. His songs are still hits. He is still selling out shows. But I was talking about this with the pretty girls in the Discord. What if Chris Brown was dark skinned? Do you think he'd be treated the same? Do you think he would be pedestalized the same? Do you feel like he would have actually been canceled? Because I've noticed in the black community, if you're an exotical, you're not going to get canceled. If you're accused of being a colorist, texturist, or featurist, it seems to help your career. You're not going to get canceled at all. It seems like a lot of women in the black community only cancel fellow unambiguous black women. They're not going to cancel an MLS man or woman, at least not successfully, because all this talk about, oh, well, I don't support colorism, I don't support texturism and featurism. Okay, but Chris Brown is still viral. He would not be treated the same if he were dark skinned. And just for fun, I went ahead and ran his photo through Photoshop so I can show what he would look like as a dark-skinned black man. I wasn't able to get his chest as good because I just didn't feel like going through all that. I was like, you guys get the point. But let's talk about Chris Brown. He's got tattoos all up and down his body. He has face tattoos. He literally has a tattoo on his cheekbone. What type of stereotypes do you think a dark-skinned black man would receive if he's got face tats? How do you think they would react to him if he was a dark-skinned black man with face tats who had a history of abusing women, a history of being disrespectful towards black women, not letting the women in his section or whatever? Do you think that he would still be perceived the same? And this is another bad social climbing tactic that I see a lot of unambiguous black women doing, where they have this one-sided loyalty and kind of like this one-sided pedestalization of anyone who doesn't look like them, especially when it comes to men or the types of men they lust after. They're paying $1,000 to take a photo with this man. And if this man were 10 shades darker, they wouldn't be doing that shit. Do you think they'd be spending thousands of dollars to take photos with a dark-skinned man who looks just like them, with face tats, a long rap sheet, and a history of being colorist, texturist, and featurist? And I've said this a lot on my channel. There is this codependent relationship that the unambiguous community has with the MLS community. It's almost like this idea of riding the coattails, hiding behind the image of a mixed or light-skinned man or woman. Or in real life, we actually see a lot of unambiguous women wanting to make babies with somebody who looks like Chris Brown. So almost like a form of fetishization. And I've also noticed a pattern where women with inferiority complexes about their phenotype, they tend to be more of a pick-me. Has anybody else noticed that? Some of the biggest pick-me's we've ever seen, Chrissy's a fantastic example of this, some of the biggest pick-me's are women who have inferiority complexes. And I've noticed that what happens is they just jump from man to man. So I've seen some unambiguous women where maybe they started off liking dark-skinned black men, then they got rejected by them. So then they latch on to these MLS men, kind of like Chris Brown or whatever, because they're hoping they can receive some form of exotic privilege with that light-skinned man. I have a lot of unambiguous dark-skinned black women who come into my comment section and they announce to me randomly that light-skinned men love them and light-skinned men are attracted to them, and that's all they attract, and these men are less colorist. And it's like, okay, well, what do you have to say about Chris Brown then? Which one is it? Are light-skinned people colorist, yes or no? But women who have this pick-me mindset, once they get rejected by one phenotype group, then they latch on to the next one. So I've noticed that a lot of the swirlers that we see on YouTube, a lot of those women, they have kind of had this trauma response of, okay, I got rejected by black men, I got rejected by mixed race men, or they're not checking for me, the Chris Brown types. And so now I'm going to go for Indian men. Now I'm going to go for Hispanic men. So them latching on to all these different types of men, a lot of times it's not even based on genuine attraction. It's more so based on them just wanting to be picked. And think about it. Why would somebody pay $1,000 to take a picture with a man who has face tats? Well, it's because it gives her the illusion of being picked. It's like a form of manifestation. She gets to put that picture up in her room. She's going to make that picture her background. And she's using a photo of Chris Brown to kind of brainwash herself into believing, see, look, I'm desirable. Look, here's the proof. A man like Chris Brown wants to hug me. A man like Chris Brown really wants to be with me. So it's very similar to how a lot of incel men behave, where they will pay certain types of women, they'll pay escorts or whatever to like take photos with them. They pay to take photos with beautiful women because it increases their social proof. I remember one time I was actually on the bus. I was riding public transportation one time, and the bus driver, he was an unambiguous black man. He paid me $20 so that I could say happy birthday to him on his social media. He paid me $20 for that. So I've noticed there's this pattern where it's like there's always somebody with an inferiority complex who randomly wants to be associated with an MLS person. Oh, well, my daughter's light skinned. Well, my sister's light skinned. Well, my neighbor's lighter than you. Well, my cousin is lighter than you. Well, my boyfriend is light skinned. It's like, why are they always announcing who is light skinned in their family? Why are they paying light skinned men $1,000? I've never heard of any man being able to do that, by the way. I've only ever heard of Chris Brown doing that. Usually it's women that men are paying to see. Usually a man doesn't have that level of like pretty privilege, for lack of better words. Usually a man doesn't have that privilege to where he can charge $1,000 for a photo. I could see like Beyonce doing that or something, but who's the main audience who's paying money for Chris Brown? And they would not pay the same money if he were chocolate. They wouldn't. Even if he were just as good as a performer, even if he could sing the same exact way, even if he was doing backflips, they would call him Dusty. Imagine if he were dark-skinned. And also, people say that he's on coke or he's a crackhead. Okay, so the average unambiguous black woman would not pay $1,000 to take pictures with a crackhead. But because of his appearance and because of his quote-unquote talent, meanwhile, there are plenty of people who are talented. But because of his talent, you want to take a picture of him. Also, I think the average income for black women is around $3,800 a month, maybe $4,100 a month. So they're spending 1/3 to about half of their monthly income. Don't even get me started on the women who travel so they can go see Chris Brown concerts. So they're spending money traveling. They're spending money on the seats. They're spending money trying to get in VIP or whatever. Then they're spending money for the transportation, whatever food that they can get at the venue, if they offer food. And now they're also paying $1,000 to take pictures with a cokehead. So they are literally supporting the United States drug economy because they're paying $1,000 so they can purchase Chris Brown's coke. You already know he's going to go and buy drugs with that money. According to the rumors, we already know that that's what he's going to do. So you would rather fund the drug industry than to fund yourself a gym membership. A lot of women in the black community are overweight. So do you see what I mean when I say it's bad social climbing? And also it's a form of internalized colorism because they're pedestalizing him more due to his phenotype, even though they'll never admit it. A lot of women pretend like the MLS phenotype is basic, but if a man like Chris Brown came up and tried to hit on them in real life, they would be so excited. They would be bragging in my comment section. Go through my comment section. You'll see unambiguous women. Any of my videos that talk about relationships, you'll see unambiguous women saying, oh, well, light-skinned men hit on me. Oh, well, my husband's biracial. My husband's a biracial millionaire. Also, have you noticed the obsession with Chris Brown's love life? I don't see them obsessing over random unambiguous R&B singers and who they date. I haven't seen the same level of obsession as what I have seen with Chris Brown. And they're obsessed with his love life because they want to be included in his dating pool. That's what it is. Imagine wanting to be included in the dating pool of someone who is allegedly a drug addict. Imagine the level of desperation. That's what I mean when I say it's a bad social climbing tactic. And a lot of women with inferiority complexes, I've noticed they crave the validation of exoticals, or male exoticals is what I call them sometimes. They crave the validation of light-skinned people. They crave the validation of biracial or mixed people. They're constantly craving the attention of the quote-unquote privileged black people. Or they crave non-black validation because they feel like any form of validation from somebody with a different phenotype is going to be more valuable. That's why it was so easy for them to abandon black men or not want to talk to black men or look at the negative stats about black men. And it's like, okay, Chris Brown is literally the same stereotype of what they're talking about unambiguous black men are. All these DV cases, crackhead, baby mamas everywhere, cheating, being unfaithful or being non-monogamous. So that Nick Cannon type of behavior, Chris Brown is literally going down the same path. But notice how that's overlooked because having a light skin complexion covers a multitude of sins. If you're a woman with an inferiority complex, that's why you see a lot of them chasing after these non-black men who are very unattractive, have no money. They're paying for the dates. You literally have people who work in restaurants who are coming out on social media saying that whenever they see an unambiguous woman with a non-black man, she's paying. And by the way, I've witnessed this kind of behavior myself. Like in real life, I've observed a lot of women who are the same way when they're dating non-black men. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. So it's interesting how you've got people calling exoticals colorist, but if you look at some of the actual colorist behaviors, the most colorist people are in the black community. I don't see Chris Brown filling up stadiums with blonde white women. I don't see Chris Brown's core audience looking the same way that a Taylor Swift concert would look. He's not targeting the same demographic. That demographic of women, they're not paying to take pictures with him because most Taylor Swift fans, they wouldn't even look twice at a guy like Chris Brown because of his history. So that's another reason that some women feel like they're always at the bottom. It's because they're chasing after men from the bottom. They're wasting their money on taking a photo. And it's like, okay, you're going through all that so you can take an Instagram photo? Do you see what I mean? Spending $1,000 so I can have a new Facebook photo, a new Instagram photo. And by the way, everybody on the Facebook and Instagram, they know that you're not actually with Chris Brown. So it's like, okay, I'm spending $1,000 so I can prove to everybody that I could afford to go to a Chris Brown concert. Do you see how weird of a flex that is? That's a weird flex. And then they'll be like, oh, well, I did it because Chris Brown was my favorite artist when I was growing up, or, you know, I really liked him a lot. I liked his music. So it means a lot to be able to take a picture with him. Okay, so Chris Brown, he is a manifestation of success then. He is your standard. He's your internalized standard of what a successful lifestyle looks like. Because you're telling me that you went from watching him on TV to being next to him in a photo. Okay, so he's your standard of success. He is your standard of actualizing your dreams. A man that literally abused women. And I know that some people are going to be like, oh, well, does that mean we can't go to concerts? No, there's a difference between going to a concert and then paying $1,000 to be able to go backstage and take a photo with him. That's different than simply going to a concert, or like in Kayla Nicole's case where somebody else paid for her to go to the concert and she's making content. So she's benefiting off of it without having to pay an additional $1,000 just to be next to Chris Brown. First of all, I can only imagine what he smells like. Imagine standing next to a man who was on stage for hours. He's sweating. He's doing flips. He's over here slinging his dick in women's faces. He's on drugs. Like, I can only imagine the nasty, rancid chemical smell that would be seeping from his pores. That doesn't even sound sanitary to me, but women with inferiority complexes, they're kind of like a female version of a simp. You know how they call men simps? Well, I see a lot of women simping over any man who's lighter than them. They'll simp over any man who is more privileged than them. They're simping over these men's light skin privilege, their white privilege. So it's the same way that they accuse us women of being put on a pedestal. Okay, they're doing the same thing with the men. And then they tell us, oh, well, there are plenty of dark-skinned, unambiguous women who can sing better than Beyonce. They're better singers. They're better performers. Okay, so can't I make the same argument? There are probably dark-skinned men who can sing better than Chris Brown, or maybe they can dance or whatever. But those types of men wouldn't be put on the pedestal because their validation is not as valuable because they're not light-skinned. They're not mixed. They don't have proximity to non-blackness. Oh, but Chris Brown is talented. He's not the most talented man that's ever lived. I'm not saying he's completely untalented, but I'm sure there are some normal R&B singers out there who do not have the same rap sheet, who can sing and probably do a couple of dance moves. So this goes along with my theory that a lot of times the black female community, you can't be canceled by the black female community if you're an MLS person. I said what I said. Kane proves it. Because remember, she's gained over 1 million followers. Chris Brown proves it. Cardi B and Nicki Minaj prove it. Because remember, they've been getting called colorist, texturist, and featurist. Ice Spice is another one. I mean, there are plenty of artists who are light skinned who get called colorists all the time, but the unambiguous female community doesn't cancel them. Meanwhile, Fanita, I'm probably going to make a video about her one of these days. She recently lost 400,000 followers. I've never seen an influencer lose that many followers. I've never even heard of that. That's insane to me. So I'm convinced at this point that unambiguous black women, they can only cancel, or they do only cancel, other unambiguous dark-skinned black women. Those are the only women where they really go out of their way to actually unfollow them. They'll argue back with other unambiguous black women, but when it comes to anybody of a different phenotype, male or female, they don't actually cancel them. They still want to be in the orbit of that person. And then I hear people saying, oh, well, I'm just hate watching. You know, I'm hate watching exotical content, or I'm hate watching Chris Brown. Okay, but hate watching and being a monitoring spirit is still contributing to their pockets. So you're still making them famous by making videos saying, oh, well, Chris Brown, he only dates a certain type of woman. Okay, the fact that you're drawing attention to him in the first place, that's still going to cause more intrigue when it comes to Chris Brown. Well, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.